invoking what they call the Defense Production Act to ensure that manufacturers have the necessary ingredients to make safe, healthy infant formula here at home.
This is about hungry babies and parents in anguish.
I never thought I'd see this in the United States. We've been struggling as parents to find formula now for months.
This is one of my top priorities.
President Biden says getting baby formula to American families is a top priority, and now he's getting the U.S. military involved. Welcome, everyone. I'm Charles Payne in for Neil Cavuto, and this is Your World. With us now, Pentagon Press Secretary John Kirby. John, thank you so much for joining us. Now that the president has, in fact, invoked this act, what is the role? How will the military respond?
Right now, the principal job for the military will be to work with HHS, Department of Agriculture, the FDA, to help provide contract commercial air to move formula from overseas, particularly Europe, to the United States. So we're working in close consultation with those agencies right now to better determine what the requirement is, and then we'll work with our contract commercial air carriers to actually go pick up the baby formula wherever it is in Europe, particularly,
right,
and get it to the appropriate place here in the United States. And we think that using contract air right now, that's probably the best approach, the most cost efficient, and quite frankly, probably the quickest.
That's the part where that's the Operation Fly formula. It's more specifically where that comes in. When the Defense Production Act goes back to the 1950s, most recently used to speed up the vaccine, the COVID vaccine. Is there any chance, how can we get more production done here? How can we do, is there a way to use any sort of leverage by the White House to get more domestic production? So hopefully we'll never in this position again.
That's one of the things the Defense Production Act can give you. Not only can it help get suppliers and manufacturers of baby formula the kinds of ingredients that they need faster to make that formula, but it can also help boost production by helping create industry to create the actual machinery that is used to make baby formula. It can spur actual fabricators to get the equipment that's needed to again, in this one case, get the Abbott plant back up and running again. They might need equipment. DPA can help provide that equipment a little bit faster, get it fabricated and into the factory a little bit faster. So it actually can cover a lot of ground here.
John, what's the timetable? When can we expect the first flights to start arriving?
Just as soon as possible. I mean, we're working very, very hard, all day today with the interagency to better define the requirement. I couldn't give you an exact date, Charles, on when the first flight will happen, but I can tell you we're laser focused on this. We share the sense of urgency, and the Defense Department will pitch in and do our part as fast as we can. All
right, well, that's great news. I want to switch gears if we can. Ask you about NATO. President Biden saying earlier today that the United States is, quote, all in with regard to letting Sweden and Finland in. Let's take a listen.
Yeah.
Consulted closely at every stage as Sweden and Finland made their determinations. And today I'm proud to assure them that they have the full, total, complete backing of the United States of America. Today, my administration is submitting to the United States Congress reports on NATO accession.
John, how worried are you? How worried is the rest of NATO? Russia, they've been making threats, saber-rattling about retaliation once the process begins with Sweden and Finland finally joining the alliance.
Well, obviously, we've been concerned since the beginning of this war with potential escalation by Mr. Putin. And we have heard some comments, particularly from Mr. Putin, that he's not particularly all that concerned about their accession into NATO, that his concern is more about infrastructure that would be put on his borders. What I can tell you is that we're going to work closely with both countries as they work through the application process. These are two militaries, Charles, that we know well. We operated with them in Iraq and Afghanistan and Kosovo. We've exercised with them and continue to do so. They're modern, capable militaries. They will add to the defensive capabilities of NATO. And I think that, Charles, is the main point. People need to remember NATO is a defensive alliance. It doesn't present an offensive threat to anybody, including Mr. Putin and Russia. It is a defensive alliance. And in fact, his actions in Ukraine, his offensive actions in Ukraine, have helped spur now these two countries wanting to join that alliance.
And to that point, they have really resisted this for a very, very long time. Was there the alliance or the closer relationship that China has forged with Russia during this period, did that also play a role in sort of this decision?
Well, I won't speak for Finland or Swedish governments. I think they have spoken for themselves about the concerns they've had over Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and I think that's really been the impetus here. And what we're committed to is making sure that in the process of application to accession, that if they need security assurances from us, if there's capabilities that we can provide to help them through this process, well, we're going to do that too. All
in a defensive nature, though, because Russia has complained that during this process, perhaps some things have happened offensively, and the U.S. might have had a hand in that. But you still say that's not the case, right?
Well, no, look, the aggressors, Russia. Clearly, they're the ones who invaded a neighbor. And what we have been doing is providing Ukraine materials and systems so that they can defend themselves against this Russian aggression. And NATO, again, is a defensive alliance. It poses a threat to no one. And frankly, neither did Ukraine.
So, John, the Senate also approving $40 billion in Ukraine aid, another package today. How is this money going to be spent? The criticism is that there's been no accountability and the money is starting to pile up.
I think, look, there's a lot in this supplemental, and we're grateful for the Congress for passing this. You heard the president talk about this a little bit earlier today. It's not just defensive aid. It's not just security assistance. It provides humanitarian and economic assistance to Ukraine, too. There's an awful lot of goodness here, and we are committed to helping Ukraine defend itself for as much as we can, as fast as we can.
Right.
And as for accountability, look, I'll tell you, we know everything that we're providing to Ukraine, every single thing. And we have talked to the Ukrainians about our concerns in terms of their accountability of this material. They understand those concerns. But we also have to remember, Charles, they're in a war. They're in a war literally for their lives and for their country's future. And they are using this material every single day in the fight. And I think we need to allow for them to be able to do that in defense of their country, their borders, their people.
Also, though, today the administration announced they're sending an additional $100 million in security assistance to Ukraine.
Right.
So why is that carve-out different than the most recent $40 billion?
So what you're seeing today, the $100 million, was the last of the drawdown authority we had left to us before this supplemental got passed. And so it's 18 howitzers, 18 tow vehicles, some additional counter-artillery radars, the kinds of things that we've been providing in recent days and weeks. Now with this supplemental passed, we have additional now billions of dollars in drawdown authority to pull down from our inventories and provide those systems and weapons directly into Ukraine for the fight that they're in. And we'll meter that over time because the war's going to change over time, and we want to have a little flexibility in terms of what kinds of equipment and systems we're giving them.
John, always appreciate it. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Good to be with you.
Same here.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.